Do you often hesitate to start things, or you worry that they won't be good enough, or you're afraid that you'll make mistakes? When we try to be perfect, it can help us to set our standards, but in actual fact, the process of perfectionism is incredibly destructive and can be really harmful to our ability to achieve and to accept ourselves. If you'd like to find out a little more, stick around. Hello, my name is Elfrieda Manahan-Vaughan of Metta-morphics. This video series, Under the Circumstances, You're Totally Frickin' Normal, was created to allow people to realize that there isn't actually anything wrong with them, that we've all been through experiences in our lifetime, traumas and stressful experiences that make us question ourselves, that make us doubt ourselves. But in actual fact, based on whatever's happened to you, you're totally normal. It doesn't mean that you don't have the ability to change or there isn't a chance to be different, but it just means that it's okay to accept yourself as you are. And so in this video, I want to talk to you a little bit about perfectionism. Brené Brown talks about perfectionism and how self-destructive it is, and how it is driven by the desire to appear perfect, like, look perfect or do everything perfectly, which is really hiding our own experiences of shame and judgment and feelings of not being good enough. And so perfectionism, is often prided in some people where they talk about, they're trying to get everything right or everything has to be perfect. But in actual fact, it does untold damage to us. Now, I know I'm a recovering perfectionist. And I would have spent many years in my life trying to uphold certain standards and always feeling dissatisfied. For me, I've experienced toxic shame throughout my lifetime. It's a byproduct of complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which I have because of certain traumas in my lifetime. And toxic shame makes you question and doubt yourself all the time. But it also means that when you're trying to set yourself up to be perfect, it's never good enough, because perfect doesn't exist. It's impossible. And so even if you try to put your best in and you feel that you've done a really good job, you will still have the triggers of shame, because you will still find fault, or you'll find reasons to doubt yourself, or somebody will make some throwaway comment and you'll take it personally and think, oh my goodness, they think I'm awful or I'm a horrible person, which would have been one of my triggers. And the thing with perfectionism as well is that it also forces us into a fixed mindset. And a fixed mindset is about being the best. And so what happens when we have a fixed mindset, because we're striving to be the best, we very often give up, or we don't even try. Now, I know I've often worked with clients who've come to me and said, I don't want to start this project, or don't want to start my business until I have everything right, until I have all my ducks in a row. And in actual fact, that's holding them back. And sometimes it can hold them back for years, because they're waiting for some level of perfect, which doesn't exist, instead of just starting and realizing that you're going to grow and learn and change. Now, one of the things that I've found really, really useful for me to deal with my own perfectionism is to learn to forgive myself and accept myself. And so I grew up in an environment, which I've mentioned in other videos, that was very critical. And because it was critical, there was always this sense that love was conditional, that I had to be a particular type of person in order for me to feel like I was acceptable or I was loved. Now, that wasn't because a person was trying to be mean or unfair to me. That was because of their own traumas, and very often people do that in an attempt to protect us by pointing out all of the things that we're doing wrong in a hope that we won't make the mistakes and won't get triggered the way they do. But in actual fact, that just makes things worse. And then what we do is we internalize that and we start to do it to ourselves. So we start to find fault with all of our own things, or noticing the things that are wrong rather than just noticing what is right. And so the important thing is, when you get caught in this fixed mindset of trying to be the best or trying to be perfect, is to start to look at progress. And to think in terms of, am I getting better? And recognizing that it is okay to start out without knowing everything, and to work up to being better. And that even when you get to the place where you might be the best, that somebody else is still going to come along and knock you off that spot anyway. So it's better to be an expert and to have mastery in what you're doing, rather than aiming for perfection. Now, the other thing that I find helpful, as I've said, the forgiveness and the self-acceptance is helpful, because it allows me to recognize my own humanity and the common humanity of everybody I meet. Being able to recognize that I am doing my best, and I'm trying my best. And when I'm not trying my best, to remind myself to up my standards if that's important. But realizing that what happens when we're aiming for perfectionism is that we're focusing on external reward. This is extrinsically motivated. So we're looking for other people to validate us. When we come from a place of self-acceptance and a place of forgiveness, we're more intrinsically motivated because it's about thinking about, well, what's important to us? So what's important? So I know if I'm going to do something, I think, well, what's the most important? Is it that I am satisfied with it? Is it that I feel I did my best, even if it's not perfect? Is it that I feel that I'm showing love and kindness towards myself? Now, I often in my meditations repeat little mantras in my mind of I forgive myself, loving kindness and Ho'oponopono meditation are really useful for that. But in reminding myself that I can forgive myself for my mistakes and recognizing that in the moment when we do something with the best of intentions. And we also do it with all the information that we can have at that certain point. And if we were to have different information, we'd make different decisions. So it's important to remember that when you come to a place of forgiveness, to realize, well, when you decided to do something, it made sense in that moment. Now that you have new information, yeah, it may not make sense, but you didn't have that back then. And so being able to forgive that and being able to recognize that you are doing your best, that you're human, is really, really powerful when it comes to addressing issues like perfectionism. The other thing as well is just starting something and saying, I'll figure it out. I'll get better as I go along. The important thing is recognizing that you're progressing, not going, oh, is it perfect? Because that's not possible. And so it's really important that we come to a place of recognizing who we actually are, of seeing our own value, of appreciating our value. Because when you come from a place of appreciation and you allow yourself to be vulnerable, then perfectionism is no longer an issue, because you also recognize that you have a voice, that you can apologize when you've made mistakes, that you can, acknowledge when you haven't done things right. Because when we're trying to be perfect, we won't admit those things. So we often cover up, we often blame, we make excuses. But when we're not trying to be perfect and we make a mistake, then we go, yeah, my bad. I made a mistake. I'll fix it, or I won't do it again, or, I've learned and I'll do my best next time. And that's a very different place to come from than, oh, I have to be perfect, and when I make a mistake, I feel ashamed. And toxic shame is a very difficult thing to deal with. And so it's so important that you learn forgiveness and self-acceptance so that you can free yourself from the toxic shame. And remember, the toxic shame that we often have is not ours. It was something that was given to us. And so the more we focus on our internal desires, the less we become attached to those things that were given to us in the past. I hope that you found this useful. If you haven't subscribed to my channel already, I would love if you would. If you haven't watched some of the other videos in this series, please do. And if you like this or have any comments, then comment below. If you'd like to book a one-to-one coaching session with me, then my website is linked below. Please book a session. We can do a free 30-minute session to have a chat and see if I'm the right person to help you. And remember, no matter who you are or what's happening in your life, whatever has happened before, under the circumstances, you're totally freaking normal.